Epistemology is how we go about the processes and rules that we follow in acquiring our knowledge. The mission of epistemology is to classify what the conception of knowledge involves, how it is applied, and to explain why it has the features it does. The epistemology used for the learning area of history, as detailed in the Australian curriculum, is the process of inquiry model, or inquiry-based learning. This comes from a feature in epistemology called erotetics, the raising and resolving of questions. Historical inquiry is a constructivist pedagogy, which involves the process of investigation undertaken in order to understand the past. This can be broken into two parts: historical knowledge and understanding, and historical skills, each with their own features. Knowledge and understanding, according to Lee's model, can be broken into substantive and procedural knowledge. These then create understanding. Substantive knowledge focuses on the content, which is traditionally put into a narrative story form. Procedural knowledge focuses on the concepts and tools that develop historical understanding and significance. These concepts and tools can be seen in the following passage. Why would historians bother about certain historical events or personalities unless they strongly believe they are historically significant? Historians approach the past with some judgments and understandings of past events as part of a bigger story that provides meaning and direction. This understanding rests on seeing events as signifying the complementing concepts of continuity and change and progress and decline. Because a historian's interpretation must rely on supporting evidence, researching of this evidence and then analysing it with a sense of historical empathy is to avoid contemporary judgments of past actors' decisions. This whole process brings the historian back to their initial question, which they can now answer. The importance of procedural knowledge, alongside substantive, can be illustrated through sport. Cricket, for example. Kids may be taught what cricket is about, its significant leaders, captains, legends, social supporters, statistics on wins and losses, and the views from commentators. This represents the content of the sport. They will surely know more about it, but it will not make them intelligent players. What they need is the appropriate techniques, rules, methods, and practice to make them intelligent and successful players. Without the procedural knowledge, students cannot be active in history. They just absorb information. They are unable to think critically and it becomes irrelevant. The second part of the inquiry-based epistemology of history in schools is the historical skills. The Australian curriculum lists them as chronology, terms and sequences, historical questions and research, analysis and use of sources, perspectives and interpretation, explanation and communication. These skills, which a student learns and a historian possesses and uses, also relate to a detective solving a crime or a case. Firstly, the detective gains the content involved with the crime. They then make a timeline of the events that occurred. They then raise questions about the crime, touching on diverse aspects that they are involved. Research is carried out to support these questions and gain further insight. The detective examines the various amounts of evidence and interrogates witnesses and prime suspects. This allows the detective to take into account differing perspectives and interpretations of events surrounding the crime committed. The detective, using the inquiry-based process, is then able to come to their own or truthful explanation of the crime, usually involving flashbacks with bits added to that weren't there before or at the start of the movie. I hate when that happens. The detective is then able to communicate the findings, which either involves harassing the culprit in public or a cold, hard speech delivered in a dark, lit room. More likely, they'll actually have to write a lengthy and boring report to their superior. These historical skills can be used by students outside a history environment. It will also develop them into more active and critical thinkers and doers. The process of inquiry, being the epistemology of history in Australian schools, gives benefits and promise to students and wider society. The knowledge and skills learnt can be applicable in everyday life. It heightens the student's sense of self and interpretation of their world. By engaging students in the process of inquiry, knowledge is able to be spread more equitably, as it can be applied to the roots of a diverse range of context and content. Lastly, Aristotle proclaimed that human inquiry is grounded in wonder, leading to questioning and seeking different interpretation. It is then that the students' horizons expand.
Created using Powtoon.